Based on the value creation wheel, we identified a problem that arises in current times, which include climate change, global warming, increased demand for agricultural products, endangered species, biodiversity, as well as water quality. So let me introduce you to DA1. Using the value creation wheel, we address these challenges with our platform that uses Earth observation data to help not only governments and fishers to source better and more easily, but also save the environment whilst doing so. All with the idea to move agriculture to offshore regions to help our stakeholders monitor this. With this approach, DA1 will contribute to a more sustainable form of food production. In order to fund this idea and successfully enter Norway, we need an initial investment of 470,000 euros to hire skill complementing experts, invest in R&D, build our own website, and also grow our community and our partner network. On this note, I would like to welcome you all to our presentation. Also, I'm proud to introduce the team. We are Ines, Alphonse, Pierre, and myself. And as you can see, we are all from different specializations and will contribute with our experience and field of expertise. This will be our agenda for today. We'll start with the phase 1 of the value creation wheel and discuss each phase in detail, creating our DA1 at each step. Now we will start with the challenge definition. The challenge today is to identify which geographical market is the most attractive to enter in the field of new agriculture. Starting off with phase 1, we identified various factors in the market that contribute to an ever-growing need for more sustainable agriculture solutions. Over 72% of our planet is covered in oceans, supporting not only the life of agriculture, but also ours. Next, we have a growing world population, with it a rising demand for agricultural produce actually being the fastest growing food sector in the world. This sadly leads to fish stocks being overexploited more than ever. Also, industrialization pushes these trends further to its limits, not only harming the fish, but also endangering the future of the industry as a whole. We also had a more detailed look at the overall agriculture production around the world. As you can see here, Asia is currently by far the largest region engaging in agriculture production and has been since 1991, according to almost 90% of the whole. Asia is followed by Europe, who represents the largest single market for fish and fish products, with Norway being its most relevant market. Thereby, our problem statement summarizes these challenges, entailing that most agriculture takes place near the coast, in vulnerable waters, which are overcrowded areas, with consequently high concentration of waste, affecting the shoreline and also the fish health that ultimately we consume. How can DA1 help? We as DA1 thereby want to offer Earth observation solutions for open ocean agriculture for private companies, governments, research organizations, and other international associations. We provide cutting-edge technological tools and develop research which enables satellite data analysis and processing in order to effectively monitor agriculture sites, conduct risk assessments, and promote sustainable open water fish farming. DA focuses on other problems as well. With more offshore farming, the general problem of disease epidemics can be reduced significantly, which often quickly spread to other sites and harm productions. Our goal is thereby to monitor, predict, and diagnose those problems to increase sustainability of the fish farming as a whole. When analyzing where DA1 could start to operate, we examined current trends of the most promising market to get an overview of the situation for offshore services. Hereby, Norway is characterized by large government funds for agriculture development. China and Japan are the biggest players and are also engaging in offshore agriculture, being mostly funded by private companies. The US also shows great potential, having a large exclusive economic zone, perfect for fish farming. We moreover placed a strong focus on the SDGs whilst establishing our company. The SDGs introduced by the UN were incorporated in your value creation framework process and also showcase in detail the necessity of many countries for a service like ours. Overall, we identified 6 areas, which are, firstly, zero hunger, where DA1 contributes to a more sustainable form of fish farming, clean water and sanitation through EO system, in which the water quality can be monitored and controlled better. Decent work and economic growth. To promote economic growth and develop increasing the efficiency of agriculture by relocating it to offshore sites and closely monitoring key environmental characteristics that can influence it. Also, innovation and infrastructure, as DA1 aims to operate with state-of-the-art technology while promoting sustainable industrialization by leveraging offshore agriculture. Also, DA1 services will increase responsible production and consumption as well as life below water, by monitoring and diagnosing key problems like disease epidemics. Now moving to the potential customers who DA1 can ultimately help the most. Firstly, private companies that are in need for guidance regarding relocation as well as monitoring of agriculture sites can benefit from our service. Also, governments, including regional and local authorities, will benefit from DA1 for more effectively promotion of regulation in the field of offshore fish farming, as well as to help assess whether fish farm companies are complying with those regulations. Similar to this also applies to other international organizations which are dedicated to the ocean's well-being. Lastly, research organizations, including universities in need of information on agriculture and satellite data for educational purposes and research, can benefit from our service. Our stakeholder map hereby summarizes our stakeholders, which we took into account during the process of the value creation wheel. This Gantt chart shows which stakeholders were relevant for which attributes and decisions in each phase. As said before, DA1 uses Earth observation as their main value driver, so we can help our customers in 4 ways. Monitor the waves that are big and also risky for agriculture, control water pollution, and making sure that the fish are not harmed or being harmed by water quality, also to prevent diseases, and lastly, to analyze the obtained data and assist our clients to make important decisions. Due to our strong technological focus, we also use other technologies next to the Earth observation techniques. For example, drones can be utilized both above and below the water, helping to monitor underwater cages, for example. Also, our app allows to monitor all possible conditions at all times, making it extra secure and timely. Also, sensors will be utilized inside of drones and robots mentioned earlier. They help to navigate underwater and collect the data such as oxygen levels and so on. Lastly, AI will then collect all of the information from sensors and can help evaluate on the basis of this data what decisions can be taken. I will now hand over to Afonso to continue with the market analysis.
Thank you, Francisca. So proceeding with the market analysis to better understand the key factors that could potentially influence our and impact our startup from an outside perspective, we first started by conducting a PESTEL analysis. So in terms of the political environment, we can highlight the environmental and industrial regulations, the sustainability and the fishing rules. Regarding the social factors, we can highlight the attitudes towards health and the environment, and also access to how the tourism impacts the regions might be important to take into account. Regarding the environment, it's relevant to assess factors such as pollution, the weather, the risk of diseases and prevention of diseases, waste management, and also endangered species. And economic factors such as labor costs, stability of economic system, and technological factors are also very important since our startup is very technological based. And finally, in terms of the legal factors, it's relevant to assess regulations such as competitive regulations, market animal safety, and also environmental regulations. Then we also conducted PORTER'S 5 forces, and this was to better understand the market. And the key facts of this analysis are that the competitive rivalry is medium, so there's a lot of competition worldwide, but also usually there's a lot of small competitors. The threat of new entry is low, so there's a considering time and also R&D costs for this technology, and also a lot of high qualified human resources needed. The supplier power is mixed, so basically if the information is available by government agencies, for example, it's cheap or it can be even free, but if it's not available, it can be very expensive due to the high costs of operating satellites, and also so the supply of power in this case will be high, and the buyer power will be low because there's a global abundance of aquaculture farmers which are price sensitive and do not have much power alone. And finally, the threat of substitution is medium because it's easy to substitute to new technologies, as we mentioned before, such as drones or sensors, because they are widely available in the market. But also, it can take a long time for companies to adapt to these new technologies. Then we decided to perform also a competitor analysis based on the key services offered by other companies in this market. And so we assessed if they offer Earth observation data analysis for open or for coastal aquaculture, and also if they provide services such as SRA, MIS, and others. We assessed competitors from the list provided in the class, and also additional ones we found on other sources, and we saw their capabilities, and also where can we as a startup, where can we fit in this market. Then we took a closer look to the three competitors which we found that are the most similar to us. We analyzed their main comparisons and how they are operating in the market, and also how they are differentiating from others. So basically, we found these three. And firstly, the European Space Imaging is a company which offers Earth observation solutions for aquacultures and also fisheries, and operates globally. And they offer services in Europe and also North America. Then Terra Signa is a company from Romania and operates more locally. And also it offers aquaculture Earth observation solutions for which are focused on coastal areas. And finally, DHI offers Earth observation solutions for both sea and coast. And they operate at a global level, and they use exclusively information provided by the Copernicus program. Then we proceeded with a SWOT analysis in order to combine the previously external factors that I outlined with our internal strengths and weaknesses. So as our most relevant strengths, we found out the dedication, the drive, and the experience in business related issues of our team. Also the focus on sustainability, and also the simple usage and intuitive platform that we want to offer. And now, as our most relevant weaknesses, we identified the financial constraints of the company, the low experience in the aquaculture sector, and also the high implementation costs of these new technologies. Then regarding opportunities, we identify technological improvements and also innovations that are increasingly available in this market, and also the increased fundings for sustainable solutions for food production, and also this growing overall demand for aquaculture. And finally, regarding threats, we identify the market competition, which is also increasing, and which sometimes can be bad for us, because also competitors can have more financial resources since we are a startup. And also another threat is the technological challenges, because we highly depend on technological functionalities. So we're gonna have to keep that in mind as well. To complement this SWOT analysis, we performed also a TOS analysis, and this is basically to assess the relationship between the previous factors. And so briefly outlining the most significant, we can certainly use our strengths on creating an innovative solution for aquaculture, and we can aligning with the current new opportunities for the sustainable market in terms of maritime life and also food production. We can also use our services to prevent diseases, which are very relevant concerns for aquaculture as of today. And also, since we have one a priori difficulty regarding expertise in aquaculture market, we can take advantage of the current developments in this market, and we can use that to hire experts for our startup. And by doing that, we are also able to create new jobs in this sector. And finally, since one of our weaknesses is as being a startup is the financial resources, we have to make sure to pay close attention to competitors, because big aquaculture corporations, even if they are not already in the offshore aquaculture observation industry, they have more financial resources than we have, and so they can overtake our position if they decide to invest in this industry. Then we, and to conclude phase one, we also define our relevant KPIs, and we break them down into personal KPIs, short-term, medium-term, and long-term KPIs. And so regarding personal KPIs, it's more important for us to fully apply and understand the value creation framework, and also to be satisfied with the team members' contribution and the performance. Regarding the short-term KPIs, these are more company related, and so it's important for us to apply the design filters we're going to reach in order to find the most attractive location. And also it's important to involve both internal and external stakeholders in this process. In the medium term, it's relevant to ensure our services meets the needs of the target customers, and that we continue to update and improve our service. And finally, regarding the long-term KPIs, we want to create relevant partnerships in the future with environmentally concerned agencies and institutions. We want to consolidate our positioning in the market, also to achieve sustainable growth in this market, and to get funding to be able to apply our expansion strategy for the future. Then we move to the phase 2 of the value creation framework, and this phase is defined as the creation of value. So first, in phase 2A, to look and find the target market for our solution, we decide to first consider the 193 UN countries as potential markets for our startup. And we will basically filter these target markets according to specific criteria, which then will hopefully allow to find the most attractive one. So then in phase 2B, we break this phase down into 2 steps. And so the first step of this process include the involvement of external stakeholders, because we wanted to get insights on filter generation, and so we emailed and also conduct phone interviews with stakeholders. Also, we conducted research on secondary databases, such as articles, available interviews online and videos, also to use them as a basis to define possible filters. And internally inside our team, we conducted a group brainstorming exercise, which was proposed in class in the form of a 6-3-5 method. And so we use this exercise in order to facilitate the group innovation process. And then the second step consists basically on clustering all the potential reached filters into final category buckets, which I will go into next. So basically we found this set of 60 potential filters, and we break them down into several categories, which were based on the PESTEL analysis categories. So we divided these filters into technological, political and legal, environmental, social demographic, and also economic. Then we moved on to phase 3, and this phase is basically described as the validation of value. So moving on to phase 3A, basically as I mentioned before, to identify the final target country, we considered all the 193 UN countries, all as being potential markets for our solution. So we then used all the previously induced 60 filters, and we reevaluated them, since we just want to focus on first measurable filters and second relevant filters in terms of our goal as a startup. And then in phase 3B, we first started by analyzing in more detail each one of the generated filters, and we did that also individually inside our team. And basically, the first step was to delete 17 filters due to they were very difficult to measure. And secondly, we apply the poker method individually also to the remaining 43 filters, and we classify them as kill, review, keep, and multiply. To do this, we use a democratic approach in order to reach a final decision. So basically, each team member would do the classification of each filter individually, and only filters with 75% of keeps would be finally kept. And also the same criteria will be applied for the multiplied, reviewed, and also for the killed filters. Then, using this approach, we basically ended up with 19 final kept filters, 16 killed, 5 reviewed, and 3 multiplied. And finally, in phase 3C, we proceeded with the ranking of the selected filters. So continuing with the same 19 filters, we use the same democratic approach to classify the filters into high, medium, and low relevance. So basically, each team member would give a score of 1, 2, or 3 to each filters, and then the scores would be summed in order to find a final classification. Then we reached then a set of 10 kept filters, which you can see on the left part of this table. And basically these 10 filters are connected not only to aquaculture production and marine areas, but they also are connected to R&D expenditure, foreign investment, and ease of doing business, among other factors that we consider the most relevant. And basically, in the following phase of the value creation framework, we will apply these 10 filters to all the potential markets considered, using both the value creation funnel and the multi-criteria decision analysis in order to reach a final target market destination to implement our solution.
Okay, let's continue with the phase 4. We applied the 10 high relevance filters using the value creation funnel. This led us to define the 3 main targets markets: Norway, USA, and Japan. Finally, using the filter foreign direct investment net inflow percentage of GDP, we conclude that Norway was the most promising market for our solution. Applying the selected filters with the multi-criteria decision analysis, we can see that Norway scores 10 out of 10 in the applied filters, having then a small advantage over other large potential target markets, USA with a score of 9 out of 10. In this sense, to complement the previous results, we perform a strategic analysis of these 2 main countries, with the aim of confirming Norway's position as the most attractive market for our startup. In addition to a quantitative analysis, we carried out a qualitative analysis on the 2 highest scored countries, Norway and the United States. Norway is the world's second largest exporter of fish and seafood. Norwegian aquaculture is largely industrial, modern, and highly competitive. The Norwegian government has announced that to increase the salmon production from 1 million tons to 5 million tons by 2050. The offshore aquaculture market has already been launched thanks to the market leader SalMar, paving the way for other market entries. Beyond this, Norway has more than 100 years of institutional experience in fisheries management and marine research with continuous research and innovation. On the other hand, the US seafood market is one of the largest in the world, importing 60 to 90% of this seafood. Highly educated workforce that would be well qualified to potentially work in many of these jobs created by offshore aquaculture. They have high quality research institutes and political support from the current administration. However, they have a very complex regulatory framework that involves obtaining permits, approvals, and consultation, and can take years. Deepening into the Norwegian market, the planned capacity of the market has more than doubled since 2018. In the first box, we have analyzed the results that related our previously chosen filters, from the first filter concerning aquaculture production to foreign direct investment. As can be seen for the graph, from the 1990s until today, the aquaculture services in Norway has increased rapidly compared to the capture, which has always maintained very high standards. Due to the environmental challenges on water quality and coastal littoral, there is a strong experimentation of offshore aquaculture. In 2019, the government funded with 1.1 million for research due to the algal bloom. FHF is a limited liability company owned by Norwegian Ministry of Trade, Industry and Fisheries, with the objective to creating added value for the seafood industry, thorough research and development. The Council of Norway and Norwegian Fund of Industrial and Regional Development are extremely important partners for research and development in the fishing and aquaculture industry. With this, we decided to conduct more extensive market research on the aquaculture market in Norway. We found that many local aquaculture sites in Norway are clearly identified, as can be seen in this map. However, with regard to offshore aquaculture, the Norwegian government created a free development concession program in 2015 to incentive innovative projects in the area of 79 licenses have been graded so far. These projects are developed by companies operating on the 200 nautical miles of the Norwegian Sea. Therefore, it would not make sense for us to identify a specific local target, rather to focus on this specific corporation and large-scale projects. In this sense, we consider that there was no need to apply additional local filters. Based on the accumulated market knowledge, we segmented the market into three most relevant potential segments: fish farms that need guidance and assessing risk for a new site and monitoring their operation; government authorities that benefit from satellite information to more effectively promote fish farming regulation and assess whether companies are complying with this regulation; and finally, research centers and other associations that need information for educational purposes or to conduct research, such as the evolution of open ocean ecosystem and the impact of the firm's activities. With this in mind, we thought our primary target segments should be private companies, those that already operate in the ocean, open ocean, and already have these licenses, and also other large aquaculture companies that intend to develop offshore operation now or in the future. As a secondary segment, governmental institution with whom we could partner, as we considered that not only could the data provided by DA1 be useful for regulatory purposes, but also for marine research. Having now a deeper understanding of the market, we could clearly state our positioning. We want to provide state-of-the-art EO solution for offshore aquaculture companies, and also work closely with government institutions and be able to be between both. Finally, regarding our place in the value chain, since we provide interpretation and adaptation of the data from satellite imagery and offer services directly to the end users, we are positioning in the downstream EO industry. Continuing, we made an analysis of the main competitors in our market. As shown in the graph, we have identified three companies, in particular DHI Grass from Denmark, which use EO technology to measure water quality and process data. SalMar, the world's first offshore fish farm, and the Environmental Vision Norway, which use a new eco-sustainable solution for fish farming services. After a thorough analysis of the competitors operating in the market, using the Blue Ocean Canvas strategy, we can see that DA1 obtains a significant competitive advantage over its competitors in the characteristics of research and development, use of EO technology, and land and pollution protection. Thanks to our communication tools, website, and apps, amid a more interactive audience, we also gain an important advantage in user activity. The initial prototype is based on the attributes of three main competitors and analyzed through the Scamper method. Among the things to be changed within our business plan, we will try to establish an easily understandable data reporting. By focusing on local data reporting in Norway, we will highlight the most relevant factors and pitfalls. We will create an added value through holistic information, not limited to the data reporting, but also on additional partners in the value chain, strong collaboration with the government to ensure relevance and be on top of legislative changes and developments, and finally, a well-designed app and website with live customer service chat. Here we have an overview of the process of using EO data and how they are used by our stakeholders. We will provide an holistic information services focused on partners in the value chain to private companies that want to move in offshore services, reporting and up-to-date technology ready for to be used for aquaculturists. We will establish easily understandable data reporting that will help governments make sustainable decisions. Finally, connecting companies that want to follow our way of being with engineering companies that can help implement offshore aquaculture system.
So let's move on to the marketing mix, which also helped us to review our competitive strategy. First, we have product, and as previously described, DA1 uses satellite data to predict and analyze phenomena in order to protect and safeguard our offshore aquaculture services. Our technology not only promotes offshore aquaculture because of the implied reduction in pollution and improvement in fish health, but also monitors the conditions of the sea to make fish farms as efficient as possible. Regarding promotion, customers will be put at the forefront of our promotional plan using different initiatives. Campaigns to raise awareness about maritime pollution and the importance of fish quality and health, dedicated events with a networking component linking our target group to possible university partnerships and health and aquaculture institutions. Promotion will also be done through social media using resources as YouTube and Instagram. And besides that, an official website of DA1 will also be available with contacts, partners, and a clear description of the company. The target market and center of operations will be in Norway. Even though a major part of our service operates and can be delivered through digital platforms, like the previously mentioned website and app, a headquarters will also be needed, and it will be located in Oslo. Its main functions are to back management, finance, and other supportive roles, to host conferences and have a meeting center, to have the customer support line operating, and to exercise any other type of necessary functions. Regarding price, there are two types of subscription models we count for. Aqua Expert, which is a standard version which includes exclusive networking events, international networking, access to EO technology on website and app, and a customer support line from 9 to 5 in business days. Aqua Genius, which is a premium version, of course more expensive, also counts with a customer support line operating 24/7, access to a customizable app for your service, connections with universities to support the research needed of each company, and access to companies that establish or relocate your service to offshore sites. The pricing itself was determined by a mix of analyzing the financial statements from SalMar in 2020, our competitor, plus the price of other competitors and the cost structure of our business. The pricing strategy thought for our business was centered on the combination of multiple approaches. This being penetration pricing, which implies starting with a low price and increase it only when traction is gained in order to create a price-appealing service and to promote customer loyalty. Regarding customer loyalty, a minimum of 12-month subscription is mandatory after the trial period, creating an opportunity to have trustworthy clients. Then we have competitive pricing and having slightly lower prices than the competitors, which creates an advantage for us since we are a startup. And finally, a psychological pricing strategy called the 9-digit effect was used for the customer to perceive the service as cheaper than it really is. It is also important to understand what is involved in the delivery of our services, and these would be processes. To summarize, we are going to constantly update our Earth observation data while making it accessible to our customers, continuously innovate and invest using R&D to improve DA1 services, managing our stakeholder relationship through networking and communication, and also establish a clear website and app interface. The staff integrating our business are a really diverse team, including departments of human resources, scientific department, accounting, technology, and informatic department, business analysis, graphic designer department, customer support, and sales and marketing department. Finally, physical evidence is related to how we reassure our customers, and that will be done by employees, staff working in our startup that contribute with expert knowledge. Once again, a convenient website and app where the service is offered, an office headquartered in Oslo, data reports specialized on offshore regions, and a company logo which is used for branding. Next, we are going to analyze phase 5, where we consolidated our work by exploring the 3 M's and by laying a business model canvas. The first M is manpower, and this was relatively simple to determine because we are a startup, so it is essential to have only crucial employees besides our really educated team. Just within our team, we count with me as a CFO and account administration, Pierre as a CEO and human resources manager, Afonso as a CEO and business analyst, and Francisca, head of communication and marketing specialist. The other employees were defined considering the task relevant maturity, TRM, considering competences, qualifications, and meeting the KPIs. And we think a software developer to develop our client-friendly platforms, a data analyst to deal with the data reports presented to the clients, and a data engineer to directly interpret and translate data from Earth observation technology, and also a sales expert responsible for making direct sales and contacting with customers are initially of high relevance. Moving on to minutes, in order to structure the upcoming business activities, we set a preliminary Gantt chart specifying our main deliverables and milestones. We start in next month with essential tasks like business plan and budgeting, interview and recruitment, and also investor acquisitions. Moving on to website and app launch, office opening and start of business, as well as creating a solid network with stakeholders. Because we really do believe in our capabilities as a company, we are also considering in the future an expansion strategy. This plan will be adapted if necessary, but it gives a detailed overview of DA1's ambitions and timeline. Finally, regarding money, which is one of the most important things investors consider when looking for new business opportunities, the approximate total funding needed will be 470K. And how did we get to this value? First, we look at registrations, including the company and the company's name, also adding the value-added tax that in Norway is applied. After, we consider trademarks and patents, looking at applications and grant fees. Rent was estimated considering the average value in Oslo when including internet and other utility expenses like water, and the total funding also considers the initial security deposit it needs to be made. Regarding salaries, all the positions described earlier were considered and the average salary in Norway for each position was used. Other costs as website domain and insurance were also important to include to have a more correct estimation of the value. Having in mind the annual budget DA1 will have, a margin of 1 to 10% was set to allocate advertising and events, which are really needed, especially in the initial stage of a company. Finally, like in any other company, we consider the current value of the corporate tax rate in Norway in the total funding needed, since that is a fixed expense applied from the beginning. Next, we have our business model canvas, which we can identify as being a one-page summary of everything that was previously described, being a clear vision of our startup. So let me guide you through our business model short vision. Okay, so we have key partners, and here we include Earth observation data providers like Copernicus, aquaculture associations, the Norwegian government and research institutes, and also additional downstream companies that operate with EO technology for aquaculture. Then we have key activities. As we already explained, we aim to visualize and analyze data, making comprehensible reports for various stakeholders, while providing also informational networking events. Next, key resources. This one we believe was easy to follow. App and platform, our satellite images supported also by drones and artificial intelligence, the funding needed, employees to make everything possible, and an office with physical location. Our value proposition was already explained to you in extreme detail by Francisca, but it's never enough to remind you that we stand on the value of offering holistically EO solution for open ocean aquaculture, using cutting-edge technology and research aiming to monitor, conduct, and promote diverse areas in fish farming. Regarding the customer relationship, we want to get good positioning in Google Feeds and generally in social networks, also including marketing and promotional emails. We want to keep strong relations with all the staff while having an impeccable relation with customers, also valuing their feedback. And finally, we want to grow by expanding to other geographical areas and customer segments. Quickly diving into channels, we use email with a mailing list. We use telephone, official website and app, social network, and events. Regarding customer segments, as previously stated, we will be aiming for private companies, governments, and research institutes. Finally, we analyze once again the cost structure and revenue stream. So first, cost structure. Most of our monthly costs will come from high salaries due to the level of qualification required and the influence of the salary level in Norway, and also from rental costs and other costs like advertising and events. On a positive note, access to open data from, for example, Copernicus implies a small investment to the company regarding EO data. About revenue stream, we have a subscription-based pricing model with a minimum contract length of 12 months, having a premium version which is more expensive and has more features. It is important to notice that in our startup, revenue streams come directly from the client's payment. Evaluating the key performance indicators set in the beginning of this project, we are happy to say that personal and short-term KPIs were successfully filled, like the full application and understanding of the VCW framework and the involvement of internal and external stakeholders. Regarding medium-term KPIs, we can say that we are on the way to meet all of them, being the point collect first revenues in the selected geographical area, the one more distant, even though we are optimistic about it. Long-term KPIs are not yet calculable, but we are confident and excited to fulfill them, especially to create partnerships with environmental sustainable agencies. Finally, after completing the value creation wheel, we want to present to you a set of information that we thought was of the utmost importance after getting to the solution. Here you can see the final prototype of our user interface, including a website and an app designed to meet every need of our clients. The website includes information about DA1, the upcoming events, and the direct access to our app, the website area where you can control your fish farm. Regarding the app, here you have an example of the personalized app you get as a client, allowing you to see reports, live pictures of your fish farm, and data averages that can be relevant. And what are our next steps? So after establishing ourselves in Norway, we will evaluate other markets in a second phase, using again filters and the value creation wheel to reach to other markets where we could thrive. Meanwhile, we want to implement DA1's ideas on the Norwegian market while creating value for consumers. During the growth of our startup, we also intend to diversify the business to conquer other market segments and geographical areas. And finally, once we have a perfect understanding of our current market and a strong image and reputation, we will try to develop new services. Finally, we wanted to present to you some lessons learned derived from the application of the VCW framework during the development of this startup. These being, the correct application of the VCW framework can lead to the transformation of a very complex problem into a concrete solution. Having a diversified team with different points of view was crucial to the idea generation process, having in mind that no idea was a bad idea. The poker method and VC funnel are efficient tools to reach to a final market that meet the needs of our solution, and we must keep in mind that this is a flexible process. And regarding flexibility, the opportunity to go back and forth between phases was essential to allow project growth as we went further and made several changes. That's all we have for today, and we hope investors see our startup as passionate as we do, while being ready to modernize the aquaculture world while making it greener. Thank you so much. We are DA1, strong alone, unstoppable together.